Unleashed. Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Matt Demaz here, and welcome to episode 3 of the Matt Demaz Unleashed podcast. So today I'm going to be doing something completely different. I'm going to be talking about a game that has recently just become one of my favorite games ever in the history of everything. And the funny thing is, I never grew up with it. I only just recently played it in the the 2010s, early 2010s, when it got ported to basically almost every console and the PC. And that game is Sonic CD. So Sega's history is pretty insane. In the early 90s, they were just pretty much dominating, because Sonic came out, and Genesis sales were going through the roof. Sega was making a butt ton of money. And what did they do? Freaking release, 4, 5, 6 consoles in the span of a couple of years. Yeah, not the best idea, guys, but yeah, that would be one of their, many mistakes at that time, unfortunately, and, But let's just set aside all that for a minute. When the game Sonic CD was released, it was still early days for Sega. They released this new console called the Sega CD, and let's be honest, a lot of the games not too good. There were some good games on there, but nobody fucking had a Sega CD. I mean, let's face it. Well, almost nobody had a Sega CD. Because, I don't know, I think it might have been too expensive back then, or whatever. I mean, it was CD technology in the early 90s. It would have been expensive. So, Sonic CD was just one of those obscure games that you would just not really hear much about. I mean, everyone would be going on about how, it's a great game. But nobody wanted to buy the system to play it, more or less. And I think that's how come my newfound love for the game when it got ported to, modern systems by, I don't know who ported it. I know the physics engine was reused by Christian Whitehead, which is great, and it makes the game probably a lot more playable than the original anyway, so. Needless to say, if you played the original Sonic CD, if you didn't play the original Sonic CD when it came out, you weren't missing much, more or less. Especially if you bought it in America, where it had the really crappy American soundtrack, I believe. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't terrible, that soundtrack. I actually like a couple of the American songs, but overall, it just it does not hold a candle to the Japanese soundtrack. That has to be one of my favorite Sonic soundtracks in the history of all the games. The Japanese soundtrack is the best soundtrack in the entire Sonic franchise. It is just absolutely incredible. Every single beat, every single instrumental sounds fantastic. There's literally not one bad song. Okay, there might be one. I'm not really a fan of the special stage music. It's kind of like dun 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 dun. I mean, to be fair, if you hear that song a lot of times, which you have to do if you keep failing the special stage, you have to restart the special stage, because you can if you're about to fail the special stage, you can actually exit out of it and reload the save, and it'll take you back to the special stage at the beginning. It'll take you back to the beginning of the special stage. So But anyway, enough about that. Let's so Sonic CD, more or less, it was one of those games that a lot of people missed out on, but it was definitely one of the best Sonic games ever at the time. Regardless if even if no one heard of it, there's no denying that the original would have been considered the best Sonic game out at the time, until Sonic 3 Knuckles came out, which absolutely trumps it in a lot of people's opinion. But me personally, I feel like Sonic CD is better. But both games are absolutely 10 out of 10 games, so honestly, my opinion is quite irrelevant. I might like Sonic CD better, but it doesn't take away how immensely enjoyable Sonic 3 Knuckles is. But anyway. But yeah. The genius of Sonic CD. It's just one of those games that when I played it in, like, when it came out in, like, 2011 or whatever, I can't really remember. No, wait, I think I didn't even play it until, like, 2015, I don't think. When I got my PS3, I played it. Man, I was, like, just absolutely blown away by how much I enjoyed it. It was just absolutely incredible. So here I am playing Sonic CD, and, I'm just having an insanely good time playing it, and I was just blown away by the amount of exploration you can do. Like, there's so much detail. There's multiple pathways. There's, all sorts of, there's like, you can block, you can either, to get the good ending, you could either, do the special stages by collecting 50 rings and whatnot. You could actually blow up the robot generators in each level. In the past, I believe, you can travel to the past and blow up the robot generators. And you also have to destroy the metal Sonic holograms as well by traveling to the future in each level. So, you have to destroy the robot generators and destroy the robot holograms to get the good ending another way. So more or less, you got two ways to get the good ending. And figuring out where everything's located is one of the most enjoyable things about the game. Like the exploration, like, I'll bring up a map and I'll be, I'm playing a fucking 16-bit game, 32-bit game from, like, 1993, and here I am bringing up this huge elaborate map so I can find out where all the robot generators are in Metal Sonic holograms. It's just absolutely insane. And I couldn't help but feel like I missed out, even though no one really played it when it originally came out. Well, it might have been a couple 100,000 people, but, let's not kid ourselves. Probably only barely 1 million people played it originally. So, or something like that. But, I do feel like I missed out on having a nostalgic experience playing this game, again, on modern systems because I never grew up with it. But at the same time, I kind of feel like that doesn't matter because here I am playing it now. And it's just, it's a retro Sonic game. So I'm getting flooded with nostalgia because I played, retro Sonic games when I was younger, or whatever ones I can get my hands on. I never really played, Sonic 2 when it was big because I watched my cousins play it. So, I actually played the 8-bit versions of Sonic 1 and 2 when I was a kid. Because my broke ass couldn't afford a Mega Drive at the time. But, well, either that or my mom just didn't bother getting me a Mega Drive. But I always thought the sprite quality of Sonic CD was like a mixture of it's kind of like its own thing actually. Now that I think about it, the color scheme is so colorful and bright. It's something that I don't think the Genesis could output. Maybe the Sega Saturn could output it. The Sega CD can obviously output it, but quite frankly, the Sega CD should have been, the Sega Saturn should have been the Sega CD. They should have not released the Sega CD and waited for the Saturn. Because doing that, they're just wasting money and, it's stupid. I don't know what they were thinking. But to be fair, this is one of the first instances of a company getting a large amount of money in such a short time. I do not think Sega knew exactly what to do. I mean, if you compare this to what Epic Games is doing by like buying exclusivity deals to fucking everything, no shit that's gonna fucking screw everything up because, if you jumping straight into something never works out. You have to plan things out. You can't just be like, okay, let's release 5 consoles and make a shit ton of money. No, that's not how it works. You've got competition. You've got Sony. You've got Nintendo. They really should have thought about what they were doing, It's unfortunate that Sega ended up the way they did because it was such a beautiful company at that time. because they were creating such masterful works of art. Like, it was just fantastic stuff, you know. Um, games like Nights in the Dreams, you know, Sonic CD, Sonic 3, and Knuckles, all, like, you know, 10 out of 10 games. And just to have all that hard work just be a distant memory now, you know, is quite sad. But, anyway. But yeah, Sonic CD was a interesting adventure, to say the least. I mean, the console it was released on was completely unnecessary, but the game itself, the software, is fantastic. It's one of the, you know, most elaborate games in the retro series, and yeah, it's just amazing. It's genius, sheer genius. It's one, you know, every level has like different songs. You know, you travel to the past, you get like different, more primitive sounding version of the level's theme. Travel to the future, you get like this futuristic EDM sounding theme. In the present, it's kind of like a mixture of both in a way, I suppose. I'm not really quite sure, but how to explain the present music, but yeah. And a lot of these songs, man, are absolutely peaceful sounding. They're just so gorgeous. One of my favorite songs on there would have to be Quartz Quadrant's Good Future Music. Oh, whenever I hear that, I just feel at peace with the universe. You know, it's just so relaxing. Amazing music. You know, you just feel zen. You know, you just feel like you're at peace with everything. It's just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And Naofumi Hatoa, I think that's how you say his name. I could be wrong. I really haven't heard his name pronounced at all. His compositions are always amazing. And the other people that he works with, I think there's some girl named Fumi, who also did some keyboards for the Night soundtrack, I believe. I can't remember. I think one song in particular, which is probably one of my favorite songs to ever come out of this whole Sonic team, audio department, is "The Dragon Gave a Loud Scream," which is the theme of Gilwing in the game Nights in the Dreams. I believe she was involved with the saw way of stabbing sounds that you hear. It just makes the song just sound so dreamlike and ethereal. I'm actually working on a beat tape now called Ethereal Plane, which is highly inspired by Sega Saturn music and the Night soundtrack in general. Can't wait to put that out, but it's still a work in progress. I've got it up on my Bandcamp if you want to check it out. But anyway, yeah, Sonic CD is quite the standout game in the series, which is funny because nobody fucking played it. Like I said, well, almost nobody. I'm sure there was people with Sega CDs, but nowhere near as many people. If you compare it to probably nowhere near the numbers that Sony were getting. Yeah, Sony was selling millions of units, I believe, and Sega CD probably only barely sold 1 million unit. I don't know the numbers exactly. I could look it up. I mean, shit, this is my podcast. Might as well look it up. Sega CD sales. What did we get? I don't know. It doesn't say. Let me see. Oh yeah, Sega CD had some cold classic games on it, like Night Trap. Yeah, I think that's one of the first games to inspire the rating system or whatever. Which is pretty funny. Jesus Christ, man! I think the whole insanity with that's the shit that you see now with the whole censorship crap and people trying to boycott things. This was the beginning of that whole movement where people were just creating fake outrage over video games. It was just so stupid, and I don't miss it, and I never will because it's still happening today. But back then, it was more like serious. People actually took it seriously. Like kids were like, "Oh shit, I probably shouldn't play that because my mummy and daddy said it's violent." That sort of stuff is so stupid. You know, I mean, you play video games to escape from reality. It doesn't have to be as boring as real life, you know? Anyway, that's just my opinion on that. It's whatever. But yeah, you know, the sales of the Sega CD, I still can't find a number. It's not giving me a number here. Just give me a second. I can't see a number, but it says that the sales were shit. So, oh my god, the guy can't even recall the biggest CD numbers at all. Sega CD numbers. Well, it was actually the Sega CD would have been called the Mega CD here in Australia because we're a PAL region. And we have, you know, PAL regions have like a lot of Japanese elements in their consoles and games. For example, I believe we actually had the Japanese soundtrack in our version of Sonic CD, which would have been amazing to grow up with. I mean, it's probably why a lot of Europeans have fond memories of that soundtrack from their childhoods, or whatever 10 or 20 people that actually played the game when it first came out. But you know, whatever. I'm pretty sure it was more than 20, 10. But yeah, the sales were really terrible for the Sega CD. It was probably. Oh. Okay, so the best-selling game was Sonic CD, and it sold 1.5 million. Okay, so it did sell over a million. I'm guessing the console sales were also 1.5 million, or maybe 1.6. So that, you know. Oh, okay, units sold 2.24 million. Alright, so if we compare that to, okay, so let's go video game consoles sales. Let's compare it to something like the Sony PlayStation. Yeah, I'm gonna be a Sony fucking fuckboy right now. Give me a second. Alright, so the original Sony PlayStation sold 102 million fucking copies. So, yeah. Oh, the poor Sega Saturn as well. It actually had really miserable sales as well. The TurboGrafx 16 actually sold more than the Sega Saturn. I shit you not. The TurboGrafx 16 sold 10 million copies, 10 million units, and the Sega Saturn only sold 9.26 million. That's freaking. Oh, that is depressing. And the Dreamcast actually sold less than the Saturn. And the Dreamcast was an amazing system, way ahead of its time, and you know, no DVD drive in there, even though I got a feeling it would have been able to compete with the PlayStation 2 if they would have released the Dreamcast with a DVD drive, you know, but so much for that, I guess. But anyway, yeah, it was just not happening with Sega, man, and but at least we got great software out of these consoles, even if they sucked. I remember my mum actually bought me a Sega Saturn in like 1998. I believe that's when they discontinued them, which is depressing. But yeah, she I can't remember how much she paid for it. I'm guessing she bought it for me because it was cheap. It was probably on sale. It would have been like $100 and something as opposed to its starting price, which would have been like 200, 300, 400. I don't even know. But you know, when I got the system, I was happy with it. Like, I didn't give a shit about the PlayStation. I'm like, fuck yeah, I get to play Nights into Dreams, Daytona USA, all the arcade games, Athletic Kings, Sega Rally was a fun time on the Saturn. I even rented Sonic 3D Blast, which had the Saturn version of 3D Blast has an incredible soundtrack. Like, it's just Richard Jack. How do you say his name? I don't know. Richard? I'll just call him Rich. Rich had an incredible talent when it came to music production because the soundtracks for the Sonic games he produced, the Sonic games that he was involved with had like incredible music. Like even Sonic R has. Okay. Shit. All right. Okay. Maybe Sonic R was kind of a failure, but you know the thing is though, you either really like the Sonic R soundtrack or really hate it. Personally, I'm in between. I'm in the middle. Like, there's some songs that I legitimately think sound good musically, and there's some that I think just sound fucking really rushed and uninspired. But Living in the City is definitely one of my favorite songs in the franchise. So, that's a thing. But yeah, Sonic CD is a standout title, and I believe it deserves to be remembered for what it is. It's just a great Sonic game, and regardless of Sega's hardships in the past, messing up with, releasing hardware that was hard to code games for example, the Sega Saturn. I remember the president of Sega of America at the time, I think his name was Bernie Stoller or something like that. He said something like, if you don't have good software, the hardware will fail. And he's not wrong. The vice versa is also correct. Like, you don't have good hardware, the software will fail. So, I kind of feel like, yeah, the Sega Saturn I think it was way too powerful. I believe it might have been more powerful than the PlayStation. I could be wrong, but it was. The thing is, I do remember the Sega Saturn being a 2D powerhouse. Like the 2D games that got released on that system were absolutely incredible. Like what was it? Marvel vs. X-Men, Mega Man 8 looks really great on the Sega Saturn. There's some other cool games as well, but I can't really remember them right now. But yeah, regardless of the crap that Sega went through, Sonic CD will be remembered as one of the best Sonic games ever made, and that's a good thing. So, good job, Sega. It wasn't all doom and gloom. Oh, something happened this morning when I woke up. I read the news, and apparently Kotaku is firing people. Can't say I'm really surprised. Honestly, it must be a completely toxic work environment, when it comes to Kotaku. There was probably a lot of drama going on behind the scenes and whatnot, because these people just seem like really shitty people to work with. And everyone's doing like the crab dance, posting the crab dance on Twitter and everything, and of course, the leader of Kotaku is like, oh, all you alt-right chodes can shut the fuck up, blah, blah, blah. We're not going anywhere. What's that guy's name? Kotaku leader, CEO, I don't know. Fuck. Oh, just Jason Schreider? Whatever. He said, got some bad news for the alt-right chud spamming my Twitter feed today. Number 1, Kotaku is still alive and fighting. 2, I already know how to code. Yeah, you clearly don't, buddy. But, 16 hours ago, he said, I don't know what's going to happen next, but to everyone who's read and supported our work at Kotaku over the years, thank you. Yeah, it's clear that the bullshit that Kotaku is feeding everyone, nobody's buying it anymore. Well, at least no one whose opinion matters. But, they're upset about it, and the people that work there are probably fed up with all the bullshit, and now they're getting fired because, either they rebel or, I don't know, it's, Kotaku just seems like a really shitty place to work. So getting fired, if getting fired from Kotaku is probably a blessing in disguise. I mean, they may not be making any more cash, if they even make cash. I hope so. But, you're getting yourself out of a pretty bad business company, because these guys, Kotaku, have absolutely no shame whatsoever. I know you hear everyone saying that, but it's the truth. Most of 90% of the stuff they post on their website is absolute bullshit. Like, let me just bring up an article, like right now. This is an article from 6 hours ago. And it was everything we're expecting from BlizzCon 2019. BlizzCon 2019 promises to be one of the most interesting gaming events. These guys are acting like nothing's wrong. Everything's fine. Good for you, Sarah Bassford. Good for you. Everything's all fine and dandy. Kotaku, it would be great if these guys just went away. It would be fantastic. Because, having the reputation they do as being like one of the most toxic, journalism websites on the internet, it's just not a good thing to have that rap. Eventually, your whole company's going to implode because people are going to get fed up. But it seems like Kotaku's still running, so they're not dead yet. They fired some people have been fired, but they're not dead yet, unfortunately. So might have to stop your celebrations for now, anyway, because I have no doubt in my mind that eventually these guys are just gonna erupt and implode into a black hole. It might be later than sooner. We'll just have to see. Hopefully it happens sooner, because fuck these guys. So, Pitchfork, in their infinite wisdom, gave Kanye's new album, Jesus is King, a 7.2. Good for them. Meanwhile, they gave Ye a 7.1. An album that's a trillion times better than Jesus is King. Dude, I am really bummed out that Yandhi didn't come out, because that was shaping up to be such a great album. Even the OG version of Seller sounds freaking fantastic. But, what happened, Kanye? Seriously, man. What are you doing? This Jesus is King album is quite possibly the worst record you've ever released. I'm not kidding. It's not because it's a gospel record either. Just the quality, the sound, your rapping, the production, it just sounds so rushed and lazy. I mean, at one point on the record, you even rip off the Gerudo Valley theme from Ocarina of Time. Are you fucking kidding me, man? Oh. But, yeah, I got nothing else to say. It's a shitty album, and I'm disappointed. I kind of wish Kanye would just, run back into the studio and quickly, finish up Yandhi and drop that in a month or two. That would probably make me feel a little bit better. Well, it might make me feel a lot better, actually, but yeah, that's unfortunate. But whatever, I'll live, I guess. It's not the end of the world. Kanye released a shitty album. Whoop-de-doo, he'll get over it, he'll bounce back. He always does. Anyway, guys, I think that's all I've got to say for this episode. So, thanks so much for listening, and I'll be back. I don't know. Halloween's tomorrow, so I'm probably going to be, partying for a few days. So I might be gone for a little bit, but yeah, I'll try to come back as soon as I can and keep these podcasts because I enjoy doing this. I enjoy just sitting here, just shooting the breeze. I don't have to, get all the details right. I just like just sitting here yapping because, I like sharing my experiences. I like sharing memories. It was good that I was able to keep this podcast positive somewhat until the end where I'm, ragging on Kotaku. But, yeah, I think I might just do this more often, just make my pod go into a more, positive direction because, it's so easy to get really mentally shaken up just by talking about fucked up shit all the time, But I will still talk about that stuff. Don't get me wrong. I'm not, bending the knee to my own mental health. I'm willing to go through some shit. I'm willing to make some sacrifices. I'm not afraid to touch on really controversial things, even though, I don't do much research for a lot of stuff. Sometimes I say things that's stupid, and people like to make that really clear to me. Yeah, I'm not too happy with the old me. A few years back, I was so it was terrible. The whole thing because I used to post on forums a lot when I was, still kind of young, mid-20s, early 20s, and yeah, I wasn't really, like, the most self-aware dude in the world, I was still, on my own bullshit, just thinking, like, oh, why are you guys hating on me? Fuck you guys, you don't know shit. But that kind of comes with being young and dumb, like, you kind of just react terribly to situations like that, where people call you out and whatnot, and people make fun of your music, like my shitty ass old music that I released, like, between 2007 and 2011 was just awful. People loved to keep bringing that up, just to take the piss out of me, and it was annoying. But like throughout 2014, 15, 16, 17, I feel like I was able to connect with people more. I mean, because when I grew up, I wasn't really social with, especially after I left high school, my social skills were at like zero, because I went through so much crap in high school, and, when you get out of it, it's like, oh, okay, well, this is, okay, I'm just sitting here on my computer every single day, it fucks with your mental health, and, it kind of affected me, the way I did things. Like, I would just come off, I was the ultimate cringe lord, man. Like, my music I was putting out was so shit, I thought it was hot shit, of course. It took a couple of people on forums to call me out on it, to really make me rethink my whole, plan. And since 2012, I've been doing better musically, and since late 2016, my life in general has improved immensely. Ever since I got my idiot dad out of my life and moved to Brisbane, I've just been so much happier, And, I don't really have much reason to be, upset all the time like I used to be. I can kind of just be really mellow now, and, I work out more now. I've lost weight. I started fasting a couple of months ago. Like, I'll just have like one meal a day. Like, they call it intermittent fasting. I might go into more detail about my, my weight loss stuff in maybe a future episode. But yeah, I've just been a lot happier, and it's nice to be able to sit here and express myself, just whip out my SM7B, and just fire up OBS and, just record a podcast. And I love doing that. It's good. It's therapy in a way, because I can get stuff off my chest. I can just, talk and yeah, and, I just love doing it. But anyway, that's enough of that. I'm going to wrap things up now. So thanks for listening and watching, and I'll see you guys later. Take care.